Ghost of Yotei has undoubtedly got a lot of folks really excited for October 2nd, and while I'm sure some of you are counting the days or clearing schedules for then, I'm going to try to make that wait a bit more bearable. That's why today we're going over an ultimate recap of everything you should know before playing it, from biggest changes to interesting new twists and features, plus much more. And as always, with new releases like these, I'm doing a giveaway for 2 copies of Ghost of Yotei. Winners will be picked at random from the comments under this video, so to enter, make sure that you subscribe, leave a like, and also comment down below. That being said, one of the biggest gameplay changes you'll notice right away is the removal of katana stances, with Sucker Punch instead opting for 5 new weapons to fill in and even expand on those roles. Along the lines, Atsu will learn to wield an agile pair of dual katanas, which are great at countering spears, a far-reaching spear called the Yari, great at, ironically, countering enemies with katanas, the exhilarating Kusarigama, which is great for breaking shields and crowd control, and the mighty and deliberate Odachi, with blows strong enough to bring even the largest foes down on their knees. On top of which, we're also going to get 2 new sets of firearms, 16th century style, including a slow to reload but highly damaging rifle, and a closer range pistol we can now mix in with our regular melee moveset. So while it may be disappointing for some that our previous stances are going away, the new weapons more or less pretty much fit the same rock paper scissors dynamic just like before, where knowing which weapon works best against each type of enemy will in turn make encounters much more efficient. Everything else from the first game, including bows, kunais, and other ghost weapons likewise, will obviously also make a return here. However, this introduces a completely new dynamic to combat that we never had before, which brings us to number 2, enemy disarming and weapon throwing. Both Atsu and her enemies can now disarm each other with special new movesets, typically indicated by a yellow glint. That means you'll be forced to react in time, otherwise suffer from losing your grip over your own weapon and having to switch to another one. That or having to roll away to retrieve the one that you just dropped, otherwise be left completely disarmed. Yes, that is actually a possibility now too. Most exciting though is how you can now use your enemy's own weapons pretty much against them for almost guaranteed one-shots. Atsu can in fact interact with dropped enemy weapons that will now get highlighted on the battlefield and then have them thrown back at them for some really serious damage. With some of the new armor perks in this game, I can totally see a build centered around a playstyle where we consistently disarm enemies and throw weapons back to their face. Which kinda brings us to number 3, and also the elephant in the room. Atsu is not a samurai. She's not bound by concepts like honor or benevolence. She's more of a rogue, a renegade, whose entire purpose in life is driven by one singular thought: seeking revenge on those who murdered her family when she was still a child. Something that the game thoroughly explores via flashback systems that let you instantly peek into her past and even interact with the environment how it used to be back in those days. Ghost of Yotei also puts a bigger emphasis on freedom. Unlike the previous game where each region was locked behind key story moments, Yotei opens up almost right away and even lets you take on the Yotei 6 in almost any order you want. One key aspect that lets us achieve that at number 4 is the newly added clue system, which somewhat replaces your typical quest lists. Progressing in Ghost of Yotei will naturally provide clues to the whereabouts of characters of interest that you're going to eventually want to seek out. Sometimes it's NPCs that will relay that information to you, but other times you can also extract it by force through interrogating any enemy left alive at the end of a fight. It's not only useful at giving you more agency over your own adventure, but also getting to specific upgrades a little bit quicker, such as for example choosing to pursue a specific boss fight in the main campaign, knowing that you're going to unlock a specific new weapon during it, and that is just one of the examples. This brings us to number 5. Since Atsu is a renegade, a sword for hire, it couples really well with the new bounty system. A lawless place like 16th century Hokkaido is filled with unruly criminals to hunt down for some quick coin. While shorter than a typical quest, it seems quite a few of these bounties are distinct from one another enough that they offer narrative context occasionally for some of the persons you're hunting down. Not all of them, of course, because such are the ways of open world games. There are some generic bounties as well that will likely take you to regular enemies within regular camps, but I will still take those just for the extra coin and the heck of it. Bounties also work the other way around. As her notoriety increases through story progression, Atsu will see an increasingly higher bounty on her head as well. which opens up an interesting new dynamic compared to Tsushima, that of others hunting you down to cash the bounty on your head. That being said, this whole self-contained feature offers a more organic and arguably more immersive way of seeking out the duels we used to pursue back in Tsushima. While those were engaging on their own as well, having a bounty system involved in that entire process makes it feel like a natural part of the world rather than another objective to clear off your achievement list. Which brings us to 6, and probably the feature I find most exciting despite being like mostly RNG, and that is the Wolf Companion. Now this companion can randomly spawn to your aid and even comes with its own unique skill tree that you'll progressively unlock more of by completing Wolf Dance, one of the new types of activities in Ghost of Yotei. So while heavily RNG based, there are some huge benefits here too. For example, one of the upgrades early on lets it occasionally prevent you from literally dying when being downed in combat by an enemy. A really cool twist to the second wind mechanic, where the wolf jumps in to bite the enemy's hand just as they were about to finish you off. Similarly, this can also happen randomly during standoffs or when using abilities like the Onryo Howl, if you have the points invested of course. But it's not completely RNG as it seems. There is a song in the game, for example, that lets you summon this companion under certain conditions for one of the side activities. But even with the RNG based system, I'm still gonna take it. It should make some of the encounters a lot more dynamic. At number 7, Open World also gets a few new upgrades, and some of them are actually pretty interesting. One is the massively bigger draw distance, letting you appreciate the improved graphics from much further away. There's also a new spyglass that takes advantage of that, letting you scout and even mark areas or targets of interest from very far away, such as an enemy camp or even bounties. Patches of white flowers will now also provide a much needed speed boost when riding your horse through them, aiding exploration and letting you reach destinations much quicker. And of course, we'll often find cartographers that can sell small pieces of maps to unlock points of interest in areas you haven't yet been into or haven't fully discovered, a neat way to reveal stuff quicker on the map for you. Moving on though, at number 8, we've got the camp feature to talk about. Atsu can actually set it up almost anywhere in Ezo's wilderness, offering a few new goodies to go over. One is the ability of passing time by sleeping, which can be quite helpful if you prefer playing at certain times of day. For example, I always prefer playing around 12 o'clock in games just because it makes the game look better, but that's just me. Also, you can craft ammo, other consumables, and even cook meals, and cooking meals is another new mechanic. Not only is it going to be quite involved, but it's also going to offer new buffs to anything from melee damage to defenses. While it may not completely change the game up for you, some of those buffs may actually come in handy. However, most useful is likely being able to more quickly access vendors, their stashes, or anything else they may have new for you. Setting up a camp will randomly cause a vendor from your own wolf pack to join you occasionally, which you can also use to gain access to them. However, you can also select specific vendors in your wolf pack and set up camps to call them right at you instead of having to travel at their own specific location. This menu also offers useful extra information whenever said Wolfpack members have new items or new quests for you to offer, which means progression is going to be more convenient than ever. Actually, at number 9, there's a new set of highly interactive animations for some of the activities I mentioned, especially for cooking, where you can interact with the game in a first-person view in ways we never could before. So cooking meals is one of them, crafting upgrades is another one, and they will feature some of these really cool interactive moments, but they are also completely skippable. And finally, to number 10, here are a few more changes and features that didn't make it into their own category. One is the coin flick minigame Zeni Hajiki, which is basically created entirely for Yotei in this case. It seems to be Sucker Punch's response to one of the most requested features actually back in Ghost of Tsushima. But it's entirely skill-based and you can also make money on it, so it sounds like something you'll eventually want to engage with. In addition to this, charms can now also finally be leveled up, which is interesting because that's going to provide some extra effects, and mostly you're going to just do this by using them in different circumstances. For example, leveling up a Charm of True Aim, you can do so by just using said Charm of True Aim with a Yumi in this case, which is basically one of your bows. But you can also go ahead and level up the others in very similar ways, basically using those charms with a specific weapon against a certain number of enemies. I would say it's a pretty neat way to actually make the most out of them and get increased effects out of it. And there are some new songs we get to play via the new musical instrument called the shamisen, although they fit a similar role just like before with the flute songs we had back in Tsushima, pointing out to areas of interest such as bamboo strikes, wolf dance in this case, and even hot springs among others. So definitely something that makes a return but in a different format. And this is pretty much everything, or at least the biggest ones in terms of everything you should be looking forward to in Ghost of Yotei. Do let me know in the comments which one of these features you cannot wait to get your hands on. As always, if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, don't forget to also subscribe and activate the notification bell, and I will see you in the next video.